What I'm going to do is start working on some of the details here in the back, in particular the power supply which goes here, and then the input and output connectors that go right here. So let's go ahead and get started. If you remember, we made this piece a separate one. This is actually a separate piece right here. Let me go over here and let me take points off so we don't have to see those points anymore. Okay, so this back panel is its own separate piece, which is good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select those edges right there, Shift D to split them a couple of times, subdivide them. And I'm going to subdivide twice. I'm going to select them and move them down. About here, I guess, is going to work. I'm going to take this one, I'm going to move it down. I'm going to take these two here, and I'm going to split them again, twice. Go ahead and go back to shaded view, looks much better. Move this over about here. I'm going to grab this one and move it over about here. Maybe I'll move this down a bit, make it a little more narrow, or not so narrow. Actually, I'm going to leave it where it originally was. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that polygon right there and Control D and scale it in a bit. So something maybe like that. And I'm going to take, I'm going to take Alt and middle click that polygon to select all of these. Control D, pull these out a little bit like this. Then I'm going to select this one right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to extract, and I'll keep the old one. Freeze modeling. I'm going to scale it down just a little bit, not too much. I'm going to take that polygon, extrude it out like this. So it's going to be something like this. Now I'm going to take these two edges right there and I'm going to split them in the middle using Shift D again. I'm going to select that edge and I'm going to bevel it. And actually I messed up right there. Let me undo that. With this edge selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it in like this. And actually that works pretty good. Yeah, I'm actually going to go ahead and leave that like that. I'm going to select these two polygons. I'm going to pull them out a little bit more. I'm going to grab the whole thing, push it in a bit. And now I'm just going to kind of rotate this a little bit like this. And something like that. Okay, so I'll be the primary power switch that goes in the back over there. So that's looking pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to do the connector on the power supply where the actual power plug goes connected to. So to do that, I'm actually going to go ahead and create a new primitive. I'm going to create a cube. I'm going to grab this cube and bring it over here so we can see it. And I'm going to scale it down. And it's just amazing the things that you can do with something as simple as a cube. Cube is probably one of the most primitive shapes in 3D and in geometry. Yet in a 3D program as powerful as XSI, you could take a cube like this and create just pretty much any shape in any object that you can imagine. I mean, from a cube you can create this computer, you can create a house, you can create a jungle, you can create characters and people and monsters and assets and things for games. It's the possibilities with cubes are endless, they're unlimited. You can create anything that you want to create with something as simple as a cube. So now let me take these two polygons on the edges there. I'm going to extrude them and I'm going to go to local mode and take COG off, so when I pull them in the green arrow, which is the y-axis here, I can go ahead and pull them out. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just scale them in on each other like this. And maybe I'm going to pull them back in a little bit more. And then I'm going to take this polygon here, extrude, scale it in on itself a little bit. And I want to make sure I go back to COG. Scaling it in on itself a bit. Maybe a little bit more, something like that. Now I'm going to extrude it inward. I'm going to go back to global mode and pull it in like so. Let me grab the whole thing, pull it away from the actual object there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, I'm going to select these two edges. I'm going to right click and I'm going to bevel those. Maybe I'll add a couple of subdivisions there, or actually no, I kind of like that squarish type shape like that. I'm going to keep that shape like this. Yeah, I actually like that. That looks pretty good. I'm going to keep it like that. I'm going to take the whole thing and I see that I need to kind of scale it in a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these edges out here on the sides and I'm going to bevel, sorry about that, I meant to say bevel, not collapse. Maybe add a couple of subdivisions to that, and actually that looks pretty good. Okay, now I need to grab this thing and push it a bit into this, something like that. But you can see I lose my hole because of this object here. So let's go ahead and let's fix that. It's actually going to be pretty easy to fix. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these objects and I'm going to go to my camera view options and I'm going to go isolate selection. There we go. And let me go ahead and select that. Let me see actually. Actually what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to hit the backslash button to activate my add edges tool. I'm going to click on that edge right there. And then I'm going to place that right there. I'm going to right click to start a new edge. Click on that point right there and then click on this one over here. And then I can just select those two right there. Shift D to split that. I'll split it a couple of times. Now I'm going to go over here to my back view. And again, with these two objects selected, I'm going to isolate selection from this side, from this view. Let me go to wireframe mode. Alright, so all I got to do is come in here, select these two edges, maybe move them like this, move them over to the side a bit, and then up, and pull this like this, and there we go. I'm going to come back into my camera view. I'm going to grab that polygon there, hit delete to get rid of it, and I pop the hole in there to prop this right in there. Alright, so let's go ahead and get out of isolate mode. Okay, now what I need to do is make the little sort of connector plugs there for the actual for this actual object, which is going to be pretty easy to do. It's really no big deal. I'm just going to go in here and let me see. Let me go ahead and I'm going to create a new cube. And let's move it out here somewhere, scale it down. And I'm going to go to transform panel right here and I'm going to go to match translation. I'm going to click on that object. I'm just going to prop it right there in the middle of it, which makes it easier to position it. Now I'm just going to scale it down, make it thinner. And of course it has to be longer. So we'll scale it in the Z-axis. Move it over here to the side. Maybe we'll scale it down a little bit more like this. And maybe move it over here. Maybe move it a little bit lower. a little bit off to the side. Scale it up a little bit. Maybe scale it back down this way. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to Control D to duplicate it. Move it over to the opposite side over here. Then I'm going to hit Control Alt D to duplicate it, but without the repeat transform. And I'm going to move it over here to about the middle and right there. And maybe I'll scale this one down a bit to make it smaller. And that's going to be the connector there for the power. Okay. Now we need to go ahead and create the little detail here, which is actually an air vent because the power supply actually has a fan in there. So we have to create an actual air vent that's going to go in there. And it's going to be a little bit trickier to create compared to the other stuff that we had done before. So let's have a look and see how we can create that object right there. Alright, so now what we need to do is make a different type of detail object here, slit, for the fan of the power supply. Now it's going to be a little tricky to do, but using some special techniques we can actually do that, and it's going to be manageable. So let's go to Polygon Mesh, let's create a cylinder. And we take off the subdivisions in the base and in the V. And where's the cylinder? There it is. I'm going to flip it over on its side. And I'm going to scale it down a bit. And if I hit enter, I'll open up these options again and I can change the number of subdivisions. For now though, I'm going to move this on over to the side because I don't want to bother with it. I just wanted to get it ready. And right now I'm going to go to this guy. So let me do this. I'm going to select these two guys and I'm going to go to isolate selection. And then what I'm going to do is select all these edges here. And Shift D to split that. Let me actually delete this edge. We don't need that edge. Let me see. We actually don't need that edge either. So we actually ended up only needing this edge. So let me move this edge over here somewhere. About there's good. Let me select these two edges right there, and I'm going to split those. I'm going to select that edge and I'm going to move it over, something like that. Get kind of a square shape going here. Doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as we get that somewhat in position. I'm going to select this polygon here, and what I'm going to do with this one is I'm simply going to Control D to extrude, then I'm going to inset it in a little bit, something like that. Okay. Now I'm going to hit Shift D on that polygon to go ahead and split this guy up. I'm going to split them up a few times. I'm not going to split them up too many times. Let me split them up about 3 times. I think will give me enough leeway here to create a pretty decent circular object. And you'll see what I'm going to do in a moment. Similar to what we did with the mouse. Or what we're going to do with the mouse, whatever. Anyway, we're going to take this object here. Let's go into the front view here. Go back to hidden line removal. I'm going to take let me go to wireframe. Now the center of this thing is about here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to point snapping here, and I'm going to point snap this cylinder right there to the center point. Alright, now the radius of the cylinder is actually pretty good. I like the radius of the cylinder right now. But one thing that we have to look at, let me move this out of the way there, is how many sides we have to work with here. So, what I'm looking at is this. I'm looking at using these polygons to create a cylindrical type of object. Now we have a lot of sides here. The way that we can do this easily is by counting the sides this way. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what we essentially have is 8 plus 8, which comes out to 16. 16 times 2 is 32. So I'm going to take this cylinder, I'm going to hit enter to open up its options here, and I'm going to give it 32 subdivisions, so now it matches up. And it should match up perfectly. This is where math actually comes in pretty handy. Okay. Alright. So here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to go to this guy over here, and with all these polygons selected, I'm going to go ahead and scale them down. It's actually a good reason why I'm doing that, and you'll see in a moment why that is, to about here. Alright. Now I'm going to go over here. I'm going to pick the cylinder, and I'm going to take these polygons of the cylinder. I'm going to right click, extract, delete the original polygons, and I'm going to freeze modeling on that, select the original cylinder and delete it. We don't need it anymore. And now I'm going to go ahead and point snap to the center right there, so now it's perfectly right smack in the middle. I'm going to go into my front view here. Okay, I'm going to select this guy here. I'm going to go to tweak mode. I'm going to turn the grid snapping off and keep point snapping on, and it's going to be pretty simple. Basically going to just trace over this like so. So since we have an equal amount of subdivisions and whatnot on each side, we're going to have just enough points so that this matches up perfectly. And it's just a way of tracing basically the geometry from one object to another. And what makes this possible is the fact that both pieces of geometry have the same amount of sides, the same amount of points and edges. And using some simple math, we were able to figure that out very easily. Okay, so now that I have that done, I no longer need that cylinder, so I'm gonna, with the cylinder selected, I'm just gonna delete it. Don't need it anymore. Sorry, guy. Alright, so now I have all these polygons. I gotta select all these polygons, so let's go ahead and select them all. Very easy to do. Just come in here, select them all, deselect any ones that you selected by accident that you weren't supposed to. Oops. And there we go. So now we have this cylindrical type object, which we can actually go ahead and resize to however we want. So I'm going to resize it to about that size right there. Now what I'm going to do so I can see this better is I'm going to click on that X to get out of that mode. And with these polygons selected, it's real simple. The process is really easy from here on out. All I have to do is hit Control D to extrude, bring this in on itself as much as I want it to. I'm going to bring it in about this much. I'm going to extrude again and bring it in about this much. Actually, no, I'm going to bring it in about this much. I'm going to go again, and I'm going to bring it in about this much to make another hole, another slit. Go again, make a smaller area that's equal to this one right there. I'm going to extrude again to make a third and final slit. And then I'm going to extrude again. And I'll just bring it down about that much right there is perfectly fine. Okay. Now with that done, here's what I can do. I can go ahead and select certain polygons here to create these open slits. So I don't want to select this one because it's too close to that one. So I'll select this one up here. And this is the one that meets up in the middle there. So I'm not going to pick that one. Instead I'm going to pick that one right there. So now all I have to do is pick the same polygons on the other sides over here. Right, and what I can do in here is just start to select these different objects and things. These different polygons. You can see I picked the correct shapes and whatnot. So I want to go ahead and I want to start to pick some of these right here and thank goodness the Softymods development team came up with this range selection ability, because wow, does it save you a lot of time. Okay, so with the slits right there selected, all I have to do now is simply Control D to extrude that inward quite a bit. Doesn't have to be too much. Something like that is good. Delete those to get rid of that, and now we have this shape here, which is fantastic, and it's actually round enough. We don't have to make it rounder. You could if you want to, though. You don't have to. But if you wanted to make a rounder, you could. And I'm just going to add a little bit more detail to this because I'm crazy like that. And I'm going to pick these polys right there, those polygons. And I'm going to go ahead and extrude those in as well. Delete them. And let me see. Let me go ahead and Alt middle click to select those. Alt shift middle click to select those. Shift click, shift alt middle click. Shift click, shift alt middle click. Should have all those selected. Okay. Now I'm just going to go ahead and bevel that. And make myself a couple of new openings right there, which are going to make it look more detailed and much better. Cool. Alright, so power supply is done. Now let's go ahead and work on these input-output connectors right here. Okay, so now that we got that done, let's go ahead and work on this part down here. I actually have my own reference image here. Too bad for you if you don't have your own reference image. Alright, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this polygon here, and I'm just going to rip it off by doing that, freeze modeling on it. And I'm going to have to make some changes here. So let's take those edges there, and let's split them about 5 times. So we get something like this that we can work off of to make those the mouse and keyboard inputs up there. And then we'll take this one, move it down here, move this one down here, and right there is where we're going to make our inputs for the speakers. Close to the same size, although not quite. Alright, so let's take these two guys right here and let's split those guys in two. Actually, no. Let's take those guys and let's split them. Think about this many times would be good, right? Yeah, probably. Make a kind of square shape right there. Okay, let's take this guy right here and let's go ahead and get this done. All we're going to do is Control D to extrude. And shit, yeah. Just push this in like this. Alt middle click to select those. Let's bevel that to make our nice round hole here. So something like that'll work. Let's increase the rounding to make it nice and round. Obviously. Close that. Okay. Now this guy right here ain't gonna work out too well for us. So let me see how I want to approach that right there. I need to make some holes right there, which ain't gonna be too easy to do. Actually, wait a minute. Wait, no, no. I'm gonna go ahead and extrude that, scaling it a bit. Extrude and bring it back out again to about here. And at this point, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna use the add edges tool to make a split from here to here and connect those edges right there. And then what I'm gonna do is pretty simple in theory. I'm gonna take these two guys and split them one time right there. I'm gonna take these two polygons right here, and I'm gonna extrude them, switch to local, and take COG off. So I get extruded something like this. Okay, that's good. All right. And now let's see if I can take these two polygons here, right click, I'm going to inset. Obviously the font is too much, so I'm going to inset about this much here. And I'm going to pick this polygon. No, it's not good. Let me pick all of these right here on the outer edge. And I'm going to pick all of these right here on this outer edge. I'm going to deselect that one. I'm going to right click. I'm going to inset. Obviously that's too much. We're not going to inset that much. We're going to take merge off as well. I'm going to inset about this much right here. Then I'm going to control D to extrude that. Go back to global and COG and just push that in like that. Make the little holes there for the input of the mouse. Okay. Whatever, they get the idea. All right, now that I finished that, I can copy this topology over to the other side. Right? And let me see how I can do that, because it's easier said than done. Scroll the selection a few times. Shrink it down. So I got all of these polygons selected and whatnot. And I'm going to select all these polygons right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, duplicate the polygons, and move them over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on isolate selection because the other stuff's just getting in the way. And these polygons still selected, I'll move them over like this. Alright. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete those polygons right there. And I'm going to go back to these guys over here. So I'm going to select all those. And I'm going to move this over until I get to, actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab these points, move them closer in like this. So they're pretty close. And the next thing I'm going to do is take all these polygons, move them over here. Let me go to a front view here. So we're pretty close, right about there is fine. All right. and I'm gonna go ahead, and I have a little bit of a mess here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to display, and I'm gonna hide those polygons right there. And then I'm gonna take this edge right here. I'm gonna move it in. Let me see what I'm gonna do here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna connect that right there, which will allow me to delete that polygon right there. Okay, and I'm gonna go to display, and I'm gonna unhide all polygons. Hello, unhide all polygons. There we are. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the vertices here that belong to this guy, actually I'm gonna select, let me see, I'm gonna select this edge, and I'm gonna move it over. God damn it. And what I need to do is select some of these points here, move them back right about there. Okay, so now it's pretty simple. The process is pretty easy. All I have to do is use the tweak tool, turn on welding, grab this point and snap it there, grab this point, weld it there. I can even grab this point and weld it there, this point, weld it there. I'll take this point and weld it there, this point, weld it there. Take that point and weld it there, this point, weld it there. And now I do have these points here which don't have anything to connect to, which can be a problem. So we need to fix that problem, and that'll actually be pretty easy to fix. I'll use the Add Edges tool, and I'll connect from there. And of course it's not going to let me. I'm actually going to connect from up here to down here. I'm going to make another connection from up here to down here. And I'll make a connection actually from here to here. Another one from here to here. And now I'll use the weld points tool and merge those in right there, like that. You can see my blue boundaries are now disappearing. There you go. So I have no more open edges right there, except of course for over here, which is going to be pretty easy to fix. Just go ahead and weld those right there. And there we go. So now it's actually fixed. Let's freeze modeling on that. Let's get out of isolate mode here. Let's have a look at that. Okay, pretty good. So those are the mouse ports, and pretty big mouse ports. I'm going to have to adjust that in a bit. Let me just go ahead and create the speakers here. So again, I'm going to select these two guys here, and I'm going to split a few times. I'm going to split something like that. I'm going to select these two guys, and I'm going to do these at the same time. So these are actually pretty simple. I'm just going to hit Control. Let me see actually. These guys, and they're fine. Control D to extrude. I'm going to push them in like this. Then it's just a matter of taking these edges that are right there, just beveling them so we get a nice round circular object. So we'll do something like that maybe. Alright, and with that done, that's going to be the holes for the speakers. So pretty easy, right? And I can actually scale those in and make them smaller. I'm just going to leave them alone. Alright, now I have to make the other parts. It's not very fun to do. I'm going to split these guys right here. And actually, if I want these to come out correctly, here's how I'm going to split it. I'm going to use the knife tool. Shortcut is the open bracket key on the keyboard. I'm going to make a split like that. I'm going to take those two edges and I'm going to do a couple of splits here. I'm going to move this one over here and this one over there. Let's go back over here. Grab the whole polygon and move it over here. And it's pretty simple at this point. I'm going to take these two and I'm going to split them once. Then I'm going to take these two and split these guys twice. Oops. Right there. Something like that will work. I don't need that edge anymore. Actually, yes I do. I'm going to take this guy over here and I'm going to actually I'm going to take this edge and that edge. I'm going to split that about 2 times. And what I'm going to do here is make another split here. I'm going to move this split about right there will work. We delete those guys there and pick these guys and split them about twice. I can take this edge and pull it back a little bit, maybe not too much. I'm going to take these two guys and scale them out a bit, something like that. Now I'm going to take all of these polygons right here and I'm going to extrude them in. And I'm actually going to extrude them quite a bit, something like that maybe. Then I'm going to go to inset. I'm going to inset these guys. Together's fine. Something like that. And I'm going to extrude them and pull them back out like this. Okay. And once I do that, what I'm going to do is select these two guys right here. And I'm going to inset these guys again. About this much. And this time I'm going to unmerge them. I don't want them being merged. Then I'm going to take these two guys and inset them on their own. About this much. And I do want these to be merged. And now I'm just going to select all these guys. And I'm going to Control D and extrude them inward like this. And I'm going to take this guy right here, Control D and extrude him in, push him over here to the side. Or maybe I'll put him on this side here. Extrude that in, pull it out a bit like that. Extrude it in, a little bit more like that. Then I'm going to extrude again and pull him out like this. Then with this polygon select, I'm going to go to the selection once, right click, go to duplicate polygons, and I'm going to move these right about here to get the other one done. And then I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to, let me see, I'm going to go to duplicate polygons again. I'm going to pull this guy over here like this. I'm going to extrude him up like that. Alt and middle click that edge right there. I'm going to subdivide this about 16 times. And then I'm just going to pick alternate polygons here like that. And what about that guy? Let me go into selection, let me go back to the subdivide op, and let me change that to 17. There we go. So let's deselect all of them. Let's select these, and these. And what I'm going to do is right click and I'm going to go to inset. Obviously they insetted too much, so I need to go with a lesser amount, something like that. And then I'm simply going to Control D to extrude, go to local, take COG off, and extrude these guys in on themselves like this to make that part of the Ethernet, where the Ethernet cable is going to go hooked up to or whatever. So that looks pretty good from far away. If I want more room up here, it's real simple. Just come in here, grab all these vertices, and that'll allow me to go globally. I'll pick COG, move these guys down like this. And we're going to have to create some more parts, so I'm going to end this here and we'll continue in the next video.